Guys, and welcome to another video on my channel. Oh my goodness, it is so cold. The weather here in Albuquerque is really cold. I am coming from Houston, Texas. It doesn't snow out here. It is so cold. Anyways, let's move on to why you guys are here. Today is a Monday morning and I just got off work. If you're an OG on my channel, you know whenever you see me with a scrub hat, that means I am just coming back from work. And I actually just got home and I just thought, you know what, let me just switch on my camera and just say something to my family. I know you cannot tell that I am so exhausted because this week has been one hell of a week. I went to the hospital on Monday, Tuesday, I was off on Wednesday, went to the hospital on Thursday. I officially worked my very first night shift Friday, Saturday. These 2 days, Friday and Saturday, I had you know, I was kind of following a nurse preceptorship, but that was only because I am working now in a new hospital. If you didn't watch my previous video about what happened to my previous hospital, I'm going to be dropping the link somewhere here, left or right. Just look out for that and you can listen to everything that happened and why I am currently working in a new hospital. Anyways, good riddance to bad rubbish. I have moved on and I think that I am really loving this new hospital. It has been a very busy week. It wasn't a 5 or 6 days 12-hour shift per se, but I have had to be in the hospital for pretty much 6 days out of 7 days of this week. So it has been like back and forth. But the good thing about this hospital is that, like my previous hospital, it is just a 10-minute drive away from where I live. And so that is just something that I am really loving it. Because my very first job, I had to drive 30 minutes back and forth and I hated it. And that was one of the very major reasons why I decided to leave that hospital, because nursing is never going to be 12 hours shift every day. There are going to be days when you're going to have like 12.5 hours. There are days when you're going to be like 13 hours. There are days when it might stretch out to even 14 hours, especially if you're working on the critical floor, because who knows, maybe a patient might code, who knows, maybe you might help another nurse's patient, and maybe who knows, something might just spring up and then before you know it, your shift is extending into like 13 hours, 14 hours. And when you are tired, you're exhausted, probably your brain is not even thinking. The least thing or the worst thing that you want to even be thinking of is having that long drive back home. And so I did not like the fact that I had a long commute. And so that was just one big thing that I told myself, no, I am no longer going to be doing this long commute to work. You're here on this video because the title said 6 days out of 7 days that I went to work. And like I said, I am very grateful for this new job. If you didn't know, I left my previous hospital because of something that happened. I'm going to leave the link up here so that you can watch what happened from that from my previous hospital. And so I am now beginning a new job in this hospital, and so far I am loving it. Now, as a critical nurse, one of the things that they expect you to know is your ACLS. Obviously, every nurse is going to have a BLS. But depending on the unit and the hospital, some hospitals will mandate you to be a master in knowing heart reading. So one of the things, or one of the hurdles that I was so scared about this new hospital, this is me just being very transparent, was I had to take the EKG or telemetry kind of like a test, and I was so terrified because I remember I had applied to one other hospital and I did not make it for that telemetry test. And that was just because when I started my journey as a nurse, the very first hospital where I worked at, we had telemonitor techs who did all of the hard work and the heavy lifting. So pretty much we didn't need to like know things like junctional readings. We didn't need to know like bundle branch blocks. We didn't need to know like, you know, like the very intricate heart conditions that are going to be the heart monitor. So But yes, every nurse already knows how to read asystole, normal sinus reading, sinus tachy. But for this hospital, it was mandated that everybody must pass the test, like in other hospitals, before you start working. And so that was one thing that I was so scared of, but I told myself, you know what, I'm going to throw myself in there. I'm going to really study this thing and I'm going to make it. So that really kept me busy, and I studied and studied, and guess what, guys, I actually passed. Now in this hospital, like in every other hospital, you're going to have a second chance. Some hospitals might give you a third chance, but most hospitals will give you 2 chances. So I passed the very first chance, and I was like, okay, maybe this is just God saying something. Now, I loved my previous hospital, but I feel like I might love this new hospital more than my previous hospital. And this week has been a week of reflecting and, hearing God tell me that, you know what, my daughter, when I close a door, best believe that there is a window that I am going to open somewhere else. And it has been an amazing week so far in this new hospital. I tell you guys that the people are nice. I feel like the patient load or the patient demographic might not be as tedious as my previous hospital. I feel like I might not have so much to worry about the acuity of my patients, even though it is a step-down unit. Pretty much this is a teaching hospital, and it is also a level 1 trauma hospital. So we are taking in like the worst of the worst, like every kind of patients, like the patients that are going to drive you crazy, the patients who are the sickest, the patients who are there for, who cannot afford insurance, and so they are relying on Medicare and Medicaid. So we have all sorts of patients in this hospital. And one of the things that I'm so happy that I have this job is that I am being exposed to like so many aspects of nursing, of caring, of medical diagnosis. And there's kind of like a bigger healthcare team here in this hospital, because again, like I said, it's a level 1 hospital. It is a teaching hospital, if I didn't mention it. And so I feel like I'm going to be learning so much more than my previous hospital. Now, like I said, this week has been a 6th day out of 7 days work at the hospital. The very first day, I had to take the EKG exam, and we had to do orientation, we had to do badging, we had to do fingerprinting, and then we had to do some online classes. The next day we came to the hospital, or that was day 2, we came to the hospital. We still had like some classes. They taught us how to use their own IV pumps, heparin protocol, PCA pumps, and all of that. I think that took like 6 hours in the hospital. Then we were kind of let to go home and do our online classes. Now the online classes were like stroke education, discharge, like the typical online classes that we usually take whilst at work as employees at work. And so this was strictly scheduled for us to go do at home. I was so glad, because this is something that I can do at my own convenience. Then the next day I was off, and that meant I had to do my online classes. Thursday we had to come back in, and I think this Thursday we had to do like using the blood glucose machine. The pharmacy had to come and explain to us how they do their own procedures. We had a talk from the laboratory head of staff. We also had talk about anticoagulants, the nitty-gritty and the very specifics about things to watch out for in terms of the nursing care for our patient. So this week overall has been a very busy one, I must say. And the reason why I say busy one is because I don't like waking up in the morning, and so it was always a frown on my face whenever my alarm had to go off, because I just hated the fact that I had to wake up in the morning. It is just too cold in the morning, and I was like, this is not my cup of tea. My very first day, Friday night, it was amazing. I loved my preceptor so much. One thing with me is I'm someone who asks a lot of questions, and thank goodness that my preceptor was someone too who talks, who is going to explain things. Friday we had so many things to go over. I asked so many questions. Now this is just me. I decided not to take a break because I wanted to maximize my time with my preceptor, because most of the times when you are going as a new employee, as a traveler to a hospital, they're going to give you just 2 days of orientation, and then after that you're going to be on your own. So on Friday, which was my first day, I kind of decided not to take a break because I wanted to maximize the time that I was going to be asking my preceptor all the questions that I needed. And I was also coming from epic background. I had never used Senna, so that was kind of increasing my anxiety a little bit. So I really needed to understand how to document, because hey, the very big thing about nursing is if you do not document it, then it never happened. If a patient has a wound and you don't document that you actually change the wound dressing, then it never happens, meaning that you never change the patient's wound dressing in the first place. So if I have to document that I did something, then I have to understand how to document and how to use that charting system in the first place. So I needed to make sure that I understood where to go to, how they do their own documentation, what are the protocols, ask like the nitty-gritty, because hospitals are different. One very big thing that I learned was in Texas, in some hospitals, well, in my hospital in Texas, we are allowed to draw labs from a dialysis central line, but here in New Mexico, it is not something that they are okay with. They don't do that. So one of the big things that I have made it a priority is that I will always ask questions, even if it is something that you feel like it is very petty. I'm not saying that I'm going to be asking like, okay, is this an 18 gauge or is this a 20 gauge IV needle? Not that petty. I'm just saying questions like, okay, are the nurses responsible for blood cultures? Are the nurses responsible for drawing vancomycin troughs? Because in other hospitals, these are the responsibilities of the nurse. But it turns out that this hospital, the phlebotomist does everything for you, so I don't have to worry about that. So I had to make sure that I asked all my questions. Which drips do they run on this floor? What things need cosigns, and just some things to expect, because again, like I said, hospitals are different. Different hospitals have different protocols and how they want things to be done. So guys, that was my very first day in the hospital. My second day, my preceptor was very kind enough to give me 4 patients, and then he actually took 1 patient. Now, one big thing in this hospital is, as a step-down nurse in this hospital, we take care of 5 patients, which I'm okay, because the acuity of the patients so far that I've seen on this floor is not that bad. On this floor, they don't take patients with chest tubes. On this floor, they don't take patients with like cardiac drips, which I'm like, on this floor, they don't take patients with insulin drip, which I'm okay with that. On this floor and in this hospital, for a step-down unit, they only do, like Lasix, Bumex, heparin, of course. And I think that's basically it. Any DILT drip or amiodarone, or insulin is typically ICU. But my very first hospital, I took care of a patient who was on an insulin drip. It wasn't fun, but well, it was something that I learned. It was an experience and I loved it. So yeah, this hospital, they have their own setbacks, and like I said, they take care of 5 patients for 1 nurse, which I'm okay with it so far. But in my previous hospital, it was 4 patients for 1 nurse. So my very first day, my preceptor gave me 3 patients and he took care of 2. And then the second day, I took care of 4 and he took care of 1. And today was my official first day on my own, and I feel like it was okay. My preceptor was still working today, so I could still, kind of piggyback around him and ask him any questions that I had. But overall, it was okay. The nurses who were working tonight also were very helpful. They were answering so many of my questions. And yeah, it has been a long, exhausting week for me. Like I said, 6 days of this week I have had to be in the hospital. But overall, I feel like it was worth it. I feel like the preparedness in, making me being independent on my own after 2 shifts with a preceptor was worth it, and I am loving it so far. If you're a travel RN out there, let me know how many shifts you actually work in a week. Let me know if you're that travel nurse who is comfortable picking up extra shifts. What's your schedule like? What's the acuity of your patients in your hospital? Again, like I said, it has been an exhausting week. It has been like a back and forth driving. Normally, nurses will only work 3 days a week, but this week I have had to be in the hospital for 6 days out of 7. I am back again tonight, and then I think I'm going to be off for the next 4. I am so looking forward to those 4 days that I will be off. I have a lot of things that are scheduled for me to do, things that I have to meet deadlines, and overall, I'm just looking forward to finishing these things that are on my to-do list. Thank you all for staying right up to the end of this video. If you have any questions regarding being a new travel nurse, if you have any questions regarding the step-down unit, if you have any questions regarding, overall just being a nurse, overall just being a female travel nurse traveling on her own, overall how to find your first travel assignment, drop your questions in the comment section below and I will do well to answer your questions. Thank you so much, guys. Keep liking, sharing, and subscribing. And from me to you, I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys, and peace out.